Luckily, I had them all, so.
Lucked out.
Oh, kinda.
No, it's like when the auditors come.
Is that state or FDIC or?
FDIC.
We're at.
We're set to go.
You guys have, you're lucky.
Both.
I'd like to call to order the March 16, 2016 meeting of the Redevelopment Authority, City of Oshkosh to order. Would you please take the roll call?
Hintz,
Here.
Lasky, Pearson, Stam,
Here.
Felter,
Here.
Birmingham, Cummings.
Here. First thing on the agenda is a consent. We have two items. First is to approve the minutes from January 20, 2016. And second is to accept the 2014 audit as prepared by Schenck and Associates.
I'll move it.
Motion, second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Point of order, shouldn't we be getting the 2015 audit?
Usually comes around summertime. July.
Always
It's
a
like a-
year behind.
A year and a.
Yeah, I
Okay,
know.
missed some.
And we
Yeah.
missed it last time.
Questioning the timing of the
it's-
2014 audit.
It's, yeah.
You can tell he's been with auditors all day.
I know, it's,
Under new business, we have a public hearing. First is public hearing spite blot designation 1218 Oshkosh Avenue. Comments from the public? Opposed? Move on to resolution 16-04.
approval.
Second.
I don't get to read it.
We have to move
I
into
have to have another meeting at 5 o'clock. so
I'm in a blighting mood.
Discussion?
But we discussed this property quite a bit before, haven't we?
Yes.
And you think that the price is a fair price? I saw what the assessment value was. It was a
Yes.
little more than what it was last time around, wasn't it?
For the first two properties, we got them cheaper, but they were in worse shape.
Okay.
Now that they've been torn down, you can kind of see what's left and why Accucom is the last piece we need for that intersection right there. And there, he is somewhat motivated, but not overly motivated, so that's why
Money
we've come.
makes a difference.
It does make a difference, unfortunately, and we were, I didn't put this in the specific memo, but he is allowing us to stretch the two payments over 2 years for the 150, so it's 75 this year and 75 next year.
When a property becomes vacant like that and goes into disrepair, is it normal to reassess that? Wouldn't it get reassessed at some point?
It would be when we do our revaluations, otherwise they'd have to contact the assessor to actually do a review of that property independent of a revaluation. We don't go through, typically, we get through maybe 100 out of the 2,000 commercial properties a year.
And unfortunately, like, I think it was 2 to 3 years ago, he had to make roof repairs because he had the property for sale, so there was a big expense, so that's why it's still more than what we would normally look at.
What's our timing on the remaining properties, and which remaining properties do we need to acquire?
I think it's just that one on the next triangle north.
Or the Anahedron?
That would be to the north of the alley where you can kind of see in blue right across from the parking lot. Do you have a,
Is that Reps Tavern?
nope, Reps Tavern is there to the right
Oops, no.
And reps can stay?
and Reps can stay.
A little bit of.
Looks like
There's
it's,
a building there.
Yeah, there is a building.
There's
there.
a,
Right here.
Okay. Yeah, I guess so.
With this property,
Oh,
two
yeah.
properties are already acquired.
I think if you back it up one, you can see it.
so
sorry.
really, it's that,
There.
that
Oh, here.
corner, we're all set? And
Yes, that corner right there, which is right now a rental property, we're told.
then we would begin to stage it into the CIP and talk about funding and all that kind of thing, okay? Which is multiple years away.
But it'll give us time to start working on grants to help fund that as well. And having the property is almost a requirement to do redevelopment grant application. That shows where we have the it's possible to actually do the project. We don't have to negotiate to get the property.
Well, it's good to see we don't have to take that line straight through.
No,
and
we
get
don't.
all that property, so.
If there's no further discussion, would you take the roll, please?
Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Belter,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 4.
Public hearing is spot blight designation 1017 Bone Street.
Move approval?
We
We have to do the
hearing
public
first?
hearing.
Public hearing first. Then we do the resolution.
I got way ahead of you.
I like his thoughts,
Thank you, I'm gonna
though.
be out of here.
Make a blanket motion on everything?
No, we don't do that again. Okay. Resolution 16-05, approve spite blot designation, what's that, public, that's right. Approve acquisition of property at 1017 Bone Street for $20,000.
Move approval.
Second. Discussion?
I approve of spot blighting and acquiring of properties, but I would note that there must be hundreds of properties around the city that are not in good shape, either to be demolished or extensively rehabilitated. And I didn't have any particular problem with these, but I have a feeling I'm flying a little blind in terms of what it is that puts some guideline on what kind of properties we're going to be looking at. Should we think about, trying to concentrate in a particular area? What's our guiding philosophy here?
For the acquisition, for spot
Specifically
blighting
for these, but for the
in general?
whole concept of spot blighting. I mean, this has been a concern of mine with some of the South Side acquisitions too. Do we need to concentrate in our neighborhoods that are oldest and in greatest need of repair? My guess is that there are other properties that may be in worse shape than at least one of these places, selling for similar prices. Do we have a pretty good idea around the city what properties would be at the top of a list in terms of demolition or rehabilitation? Are we going to continue to do it scattered site, or are we going to focus in one area? I just need some guidance.
And I would say my initial answer is, I don't know, because we only bring these forward if they're offered to us or the county, either by a private citizen or the county. And then we as a staff, we do go through the different properties that they're offering. That includes the neighborhood association needs. It includes what we have for other redevelopment plans that we've already adopted. So most of these have been in redevelopment areas for acquisition. These that are scattered are usually going to be related to the neighborhood association that we're working in, or the neighborhood we're
If
working
you
in.
look at the HUD lists,
I'm not sure we get HUD lists.
I think the planning staff has looked at it from the Healthy Initiatives planning standpoint.
But do we get a list from HUD?
No, there's usually one or two realtors within the community that are
one
agents.
of the reasons I raise this is that I looked at a HUD property out of curiosity else, and it was at $36,000, the acquisition price. It's a solid house. It needs quite a bit of rehabbing, particularly because it has lead paint on the outside, so it would need to be resided or something there. It's also on a double lot, you know, with a fully buildable lot there. And the reality is that nobody is going to buy that place simply because of what the rehab costs are. But, you know, it's an absolutely incredible, you know, bargain. It would be great for Habitat or something there. But it seems to me that at the rate we're going, places like that are just going to eventually rot out. And it seems to me that we need to have a better idea of what some of these places are. And maybe, you know, maybe the HUD list is something that should be systematically
We should. 'cause
looked at.
We've talked about this issue for, you know, we raised it 4 years ago, having not a patchwork pattern, maybe a focus pattern, and it should be defined and refined so we could follow it and do a block or do another block or find maybe or do a stack ranking of bad properties and bad blocks and focus that way. Otherwise, 10 years from now, we'll have 2 properties in every block in the target area. Well, we will.
Or in the whole city, right? Yeah.
That'll be the direction that Go H&I is working towards, where it's neighborhood based. I think the house on Bone Street, which I go past a lot, it's a nice, a pretty decent neighborhood. And my one suggestion is you're saying we acquire for 20, rehab for 80, sell for 100. I would try to get more for it. I think it's $120,000, $130,000 neighborhood. So can we make money when doing this stuff? Or
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
Right.
because we're using federal money, we'll either have to sell it for the assessed value, so we'll have to have an appraisal done and sell it for the assessed value, or to a low to moderate income family. So there will be requirements because of the federal funds being used.
this house is surrounded by a lot of nice homes. I
Yes.
think in this case, it's gonna protect the investment the neighbors have in their homes. And
Correct. Yep.
The other 2 on here, they're beyond help. I mean, there might be a salvageable door, maybe.
The other new thing with Bowen Street property is we talked to you about trying to do this type of project. We've never done this type of project before, acquire, rehab, and then sell. So that's why we think this is a good candidate for that, because we do think it's gonna have a good resale value. So I would go just about anywhere to make money.
Sure, yeah, right.
And I could do a CMA on this, what the homes in that area have been selling for, but I think will be worth over 100,000, probably 120, 125.
So
Doing the rehab, who's managing,
Ken Gresser, who is our block
contracted
grant.
out, or is that,
No, we
No.
subcontract everything out.
it's a city project, city
Yes.
funded, city?
Yep.
He serves as the general contractor.
Yep, well, yes, the housing specialist will serve as the housing contractor. We'll bid it out. We have certified contractors that we work with under our federal program because of the federal funds. So it will be bid out, and we'll go through the bids and choose a contractor. And
Building, plumbing, electrical, they'll all have their bids done.
And there's lead because it was built before 1978.
There's still high schools doing those programs, or,
I don't believe so anymore.
because they did a couple houses.
Yes, they did
New
for us. Yep.
constructions they did.
Right.
Yep.
Talked to Stan Mack, and he has an interest in reviving the program. And the tech school does a similar program. We've talked to them about working with this, but
Again, that would be a healthy neighborhoods discussion, and a good target for them to go at. So.
Yep.
any
So does
No
that answer
further-
your questions? For
Well, I think
a little
so.
bit,
You know,
Steve?
again, I hope that we can, you know, expand our list of properties and think about some geographic boundaries.
We should have a direction for the money we're
Yeah.
spending, or we're going
Yeah.
to be in the same
Pickle,
place
but we-
forever.
Right.
Moving ahead quickly to 503 Wago, I've had a lot of complaints from people who live on the east side. What are we doing? I mean,
Yeah.
what are we doing? I try to explain this is a long, drawn-out legal process. Well,
Yeah.
can't you just tear it down? No, we can't
Yeah.
tear it down.
No.
Again, I didn't have any problem with the ones that are on our agenda today. I think there were good reasons for them. It's just the longer-term continuation. And again, I'm glad that the RDA and the city are doing this, because I think it really does shore up neighborhoods there.
I would like to get a report back to the RDA after the project, just to see the success.
Absolutely.
So just to see.
Well, with this one for Bowen Street, after we get it done, we're hoping to do an open house, because it's our first project, so we want to do an open house and just show the community what we can do and
Good.
how we can help improve the neighborhood. So that's what we're looking to do.
Be able to give them a full accounting of the costs, because the city
Yep.
will track those all.
Yes, yes.
We put signage in the front stating that this is a project of, so we get some PR out of it.
Yes, we can.
By the way, the house, when it was painted in Packard green and gold. So it's kind of nice.
Originally?
I think so. It's nice that the paint is falling off. If there's no further discussion, roll call, please.
Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Belter,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 4.
Next public hearing is Spot Blight Designation 503 Wagoo Avenue. Move on to the Resolution 16-06.
I'll move approval. Too soon?
I gotta get out of here
that's right.
before 5.
1606.
Any discussion?
Mr.
there a
Hintz
second?
did.
Second.
Good, thank you.
Discussion?
We have early unanimity on the ultimate disposition of this. So.
Just as an aside, this is probably one of the oldest homes in Oshkosh. There's pictures somewhere, I think in financial planning of the house when it was first built and occupied. If there's no further discussion, I'll invite a little bit of historical.
Don't bring up that word.
Well, there is some concern with the state. Would I explain what we talked about as far as the house on Merritt and Historical Society, because it's in a,
It's not in a historic district, but it's a contributing
Right.
factor.
Wagoo, right?
Yeah,
This is
could-
Wagoo.
Could
Yeah,
could we
but-
get a vote on Wagoo,
Oh,
and
I'm
then we
s-
can
I'm
go to
sorry,
Merritt?
Yep.
I think we got the motion, the second, we
Yeah, we-
didn't vote
yep,
yet
you're
on
right.
Wagoo yet.
Okay. Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Belter,
Aye.
Cummings,
aye.
carried 4.
Out of practice?
What?
No, they put that out,
I know, that's, oh,
Saving the water for
but they would probably, they'd probably like to train it.
Can't do that anymore.
Sometimes the police,
we had the same.
Yes, police department.
I should have asked this before, but do we know the demo date for Wagoo?
Don't need one, this is.
no. We have to close on it first, and then we'll have to go through the asbestos abatement, and then we'll have to get the bids for tearing it down.
So it's probably 60 to 90 days out before we make that demo,
Told them to do it.
so. No, we can't do that sometimes.
I get asked that question by people that lease, I tell them it's 90 days.
Before we can even look at demos.
Takes care of Wagoo. Resolution 16-07, determination of necessity, establish fair market value, authorized purchase, 302 Merritt Avenue, $28,186.80 plus closing cost.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Discussion?
There was a question as to why we didn't have to spotlight this. It's already within the approved Middle East neighborhood, so we don't have to spotlight it because it's already in a designated area.
Redevelopment area?
This is the one that you have to state over, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
This is not on the historic preservation, or not in a historic district, but
Is
is
this
a
a tier?
contributing factor house, so we'll have to get clearance from the state.
How is that determined?
We're just
This is one of the
acquiring.
oldest houses in the city of Oshkosh.
So staff will have to do a historical review of the record and determine whether that it meets or doesn't meet the 4F, section
Something like
4F of the historic preservation.
Yeah, yeah. Is a place in sufficiently bad shape that it is a demolition candidate?
The raccoons think so.
Yes, we haven't been in it yet. I mean, once we close on it, then the housing
You'll find-
specialist
you'll
will
find
go,
out.
will be able to go through and see if it is salvageable.
Because we'll have to do that before we can
Has it been
submit our
vacant
report to the state.
For a while, or what?
Yes,
Been
vacant.
Yeah, I
did-
don't know,
I-
2 years, something like that.
And if the state says no to tearing it down, they don't give you money to fix it up.
No.
State Historical Society.
But I'm hoping there shouldn't be a problem, just based on the exterior conditions. I mean, there's a big hole in the roof, there's a gaping hole along the roof line, so.
We need worse pictures. These don't look that bad.
Well, you
Tom,
can't
drive
really
past it.
see
Oh, I
it,
know,
but,
okay.
see,
I
this is
see
where
that's a
the,
bowl, okay.
yeah, that's where the gaping hole, that whole side is
Okay.
completely open to the elements. See, it's hard to tell, but,
Nice.
yeah, the neighbor has said there was a raccoon family that moved in a year and a half ago, so.
Raises another issue which we will not get into, and that is the whole issue of housing codes and how it is that we ended up with a gaping hole there for a couple of years.
Been written up.
As a-
Oh, yes. Code enforcement's been on this. Unfortunately, there was no property owner to make the corrections, and that's why we ended up with the county taking it
Well,
for
they
back
just walked
taxes.
away from it.
They just walked away from it, so that's why we thought we'd acquire it from the county for the back taxes.
Get that more than I think.
Yeah,
It's considered a Greek revival,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that does look like Greek revival.
despite what's been torn up.
Polar bear wave.
We have a motion and a second, correct?
Yes.
Please take the roll.
Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Belter,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 4.
Mr. Davis, it is your turn, the Executive Director's
Yes.
report.
I'd like to.
Update on Buck staff. Staff did submit the 2 grants totaling $300,000 back in January. Unfortunately, we have no word from WDC yet. I'm not expecting to hear anything here in March. I'm hoping to hear in April. I've been told that they've got a lot of applications, so they're waiting their way throughout the application. I'm still optimistic. It meets all the requirements for a good-sized grant for this, so we're ready to work on it as soon as WDC approves the grant.
We don't know how that works, like if they stack rank their requests across the state, or if they look at a necessity or a need, or what this, you know, anything that goes into their decision?
They haven't distributed any kind of point value or scoring system. I think they care a lot about the impact in the community, the economic potential, and the leverage they're getting out of their grant. And I think we maximize the points and those criteria they've talked to us about. So that's why I'm optimistic.
Can't do any lobbying or talk to Mark or any of that kind of, Mark Hogan.
I wouldn't say it wouldn't hurt, but I'm not sure it's going to help. So I'm very happy with how WEDC staff has helped us get us to this point, and they are optimistic as well, our local representatives for that. So they've been good advocates for us. Let's see. That was
Healthy
Buck
neighborhood.
staff. Healthy neighborhoods. I'm not sure you guys have heard of the Healthy Neighborhoods initiative. That's a new 501c3 that's been created recently, and we're hoping that's going to be working in concert with the city and the RDA and working on some of these projects that the city won't actually take on, but they'll be able to raise money and come up with projects on their own when it comes to working in neighborhoods. So that's it's kind of the replacement for NeighborWorks, since NeighborWorks Racine Kenosha, Oshkosh is a good long-term fit for them. So this will be what I think will become a chapter of NeighborWorks Oshkosh, if that could happen. If it's not a NeighborWorks, it'll just continue operating like a neighborhood program, regardless of the name. But I think that's where it's headed. And so far, the reception's been very good with the board, and they're just starting to do fundraising for the 501c3.
One advantage, we can move quicker under Go HNI than the city to acquire a property. When we see properties pop up
For sale.
for sale, that if we want to get them out, keep them on the hands of, get them going to rental and so forth, we can move through this organization with almost lightning speed compared to the city.
Correct.
What kind of budget are you looking at?
Right now, I think that's still in a state of flux because they don't know how much staff they're going to have, but I expect the cities are going to be somewhere around a third of the total, and we're looking at about 100,000, so I wouldn't be surprised if the total's somewhere around 200,000 to 300,000, plus project costs.
And it'll give us, I think, through this organization, they'll have to really, because they're getting some city money, follow our design standards, everything else, that they get these properties back as close to the way they were designed and built, so they're compatible with the neighborhoods. You drive down like Jackson, you know it was a neighborhood full of porches. And if there's a porch gone, it looks totally the house looks out of place. So we're hoping to get those neighbors, not historic restorations, but get them back to the way they were built, and using, cost-effective modern materials. That's one advantage.
Alan, what is the Healthy Neighborhoods Organization? Where are they based? Where are they working?
Right now, it's out of the city because we hired the staff member who's helped put that together over the last 6 months.
Okay, but the staff member came from
NeighborWorks,
okay.
when they
So
closed the
it's-
Oshkosh
it's-
office.
It's our version of NeighborWorks. Okay, got it.
And even that city position ends about in May, and that's when they have to become an employee of Go HNI.
It's not a franchise or anything.
No, it's not.
No,
It's
but
a
we
brand
wanna-
new startup.
But we want to, about 2 years, hope to be a chapter of NeighborWorks America, because there's a lot of
Training.
grant and training. The training is the biggest thing, the biggest advantage.
Well, outside of the city contribution, where's the money being raised?
About a half a dozen foundations that I'm aware of that they're hitting up for that,
Okay, so that staff member is working on
and the board members are.
Board members
board
too.
members, okay.
Lyman right now is the chairman of the
Right.
board,
Okay.
and he's been working on that. And then on the South Shore, Boatworks, we're going to be installing the kayak and canoe launch soon, and then we're planning a grand opening when it gets a little warmer. Has that date been set yet with
No.
the Parks Department?
No, we're waiting till after the state of the city, because everyone's busy trying to get things finalized for that.
It'll be this spring, though. And then on the,
Wait, who's been down there yet? Archie, you've been?
Down there.
I was down there on my bicycle. Yeah.
Beautiful thing. I was down last Saturday, the nice day, and and Ray was down there. I talked to Ray a little bit.
oh, good.
It's just a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Curve around gently, you come over the two bridges, you look, it was really nice. We
Nice
did
overlook up
something-
there.
Something good for the city there. And you really want it to keep going when you get to this.
It's the bridge to nowhere. The bridge to nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Well, I can talk about Morgan District next because that's where it goes next. And you can see where we started east of Oregon this last winter, and they're continuing to work. The next phase would be the end of our bridge into the area that I call it a lagoon on the Morgan District property. We're hoping to get that started later this year. We have the easements, and we're working out some details on the design with the property owners, but I'm optimistic we'll be able to continue working on that here in 16 into 17 through the Morgan District, and probably finishing in 17 or 18. Let's see, we also submitted a grant application on behalf of the Morgan District for new private infrastructure to the site. That's another one that WEDC is reviewing and has been advanced to the next phase, which is a good sign. It's kind of you have to get over certain hurdles, and it's good that we got over the first hurdle.
Have we ever pushed really hard for private funding for the Riverwalk, for like, the little segment that would be the north end of the golf course, or when we get to the Morgan District, if we're only, this many yards away from from completing it, how valuable it would be to the adjoining property owners or to the district. We've not really gone there yet, have we?
We've not assessed for anything. We've not raised private funds other than what they've donated as part of the land, frankly. So we've not gone down that path.
I think there's
for
opportunity
Riverwalk.
when we get, we're only so far away, and if we have to wait 5 years for public funding versus getting a couple of donors in to have it done next year.
Naming rights, is that what you're?
Well, that
Direction.
naming
Yeah.
rights are historicals, something to, right, those last segments, if we can move up the timeline 5 years, are gonna be really a neat thing for Oshkosh.
And all the historical signs going up, that's all private funding. And we've got 6 or 7 up so far.
There'd be an opportunity for, even the Morgan piece is a historical piece of land. You could certainly do something with that last extension, and that's a big expense for that. Just thinking out loud. So.
One of the things we are working on is a TIF application they submitted, and I can tell you the TIF would be paying for the Riverwalk through that district as part of that project plan.
Big number.
It is. Speaking of big numbers, Pioneer area, that would be another big project around the island and the marina with the Riverwalk. Mr. Dumke's still working with us to look at different funding scenarios and options for development. I'm still optimistic you'll be able to close on that and redevelop the site. The granary is another one on the south, in the South Shore. Mr. Dumke acquired the granary and was here a few months ago to talk about parking kitty corner from that the RDA owns. So he's working with the building code, and we recently adopted the historic building code, so he could qualify for rehabbing it under historic building code rather than today's commercial building code. So that helped him a great deal. So he's finishing up those plans at this point in time. And then last but not least, Mr. Burns, who owns that Miles Kimball building at 9th and Main, the white building, says he's going to be finishing that work, the engineering, and bidding it out this spring to start this project. So I hope that works out for him. And then moving on to the Marion Road side, you've probably seen a crane working where Rivers 1.5 is under construction. They're hoping to be open later this spring. You see they're going above ground now. Mr. Dumke still has that Jackson Marion parcel, and he's working on plans. And the water tower, I'm told that they're going to be having a meeting with their stakeholders for the design sometime in the next couple weeks. And once they have something like that, we'll bring it back to RDA so you guys can see that as well, because you wanted to see that. And then there's some various pictures of the Rivers 1.5 under construction. That's all I have to report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, there's no other discussion. I look for an adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you for coming.